This is Joe Corcoran, and you are listening to GMI.
Hi there, it's Jed Brocky from GMI, the Guitar and Music Institute, episode 46 of the podcast. There was a time when phones were something you picked up and spoke into, and watches were something you looked at to tell the time, but everything's changed. And today I'm talking to a young American man who's heading up a company, and part of what they're creating is an app for smart watches called Wristruments. That's right, it's an app that actually helps you play and learn guitar. Some of the technology that Joe talks about is absolutely astounding in terms of being able to move up and down the guitar fretboard and see your guitar neck, or where you are on the guitar neck, move with you. And it's just the beginning. That's coming up just in a moment. GMI has been going now for about 7 or 8 years, and we use Shopify to get our products over to the public. If you're interested in going online and selling something, Shopify is a fantastic way to actually start. If you go to the Guitar Music Institute website and one of our podcast pages, you'll see a link there that gets you 14 days free on Shopify. In keeping with my new Let's Keep It Short and Sweet, let's get to the interview. Joe, thank you very much for taking part in the GMI podcast. It's wonderful to have you on the show.
Yes, thank you, Jed, for having me. It's great to be speaking with you today.
And it looks like it's probably in the middle of the day. Where are you about? So I always like to ask this. I don't know if people are interested, but I'm interested.
Yeah, so I'm in Durham, New Hampshire right now. It's outside of Boston, northeast United States. So we are right in the middle of our day, actually. It's 3 p.m. here.
I know that area a little. I stayed there for a couple of weeks back in the day when I was in my 30s in Cambridge. I had a friend who was doing some work over in Harvard, and he said, would you like to come over for a couple of weeks, Jed? And I said, absolutely. And I kind of felt like, you know that film with Tom Cruise when they're walking about Harvard and you're, is it A Few Good Men or something like that? It's one of those ones. Anyway, you're kicking the leaves, you know? So, you're here today because I spotted your company on, is it Indiegogo? So I've got that right?
Yes. We're currently on Indiegogo.
Yeah, and it's something called Wristruments.
Wristruments.
So
you got it.
Yeah, and I'd never heard of this, and I've watched some videos on it. I need to be converted to this one. I'll be honest with you.
Yeah,
but
of course.
So maybe, Joe, you could tell us all about Wristruments.
I would love to. So I guess for those of you who are unfamiliar of the product itself, it is a smartwatch application that helps you practice and improve your guitar playing, and also provides kind of a new style of supplementing instructions for guitar teachers. So what the whole thing is you actually put the smartwatch on the inside of your wrist, so that as you're playing different scales or different chords, it's been compared to by a lot of people who do play guitar as just tabs on your wrist. Because it's on a smartwatch, it allows for a little bit more personalization, customization, and enhanced features, I guess, when compared to traditional tabs and sheet music.
These watches, how popular are they now? I don't see many people with them on, but that being said, they could be underneath a sleeve.
Right.
What made you think about this, Joe?
So I actually thought about it. I invented it in 2017, and I had been kind of like a hobbyist guitar player for my entire life. I took lessons when I was maybe 10 or 11 for about 6 months, and I got to a point, I think it was Bomb Track by Rage Against the Machine that I was trying to play, and it's that alternate picking song, and I just got stuck with trying to learn alternate picking, and that's pretty much where I stopped my progression as a player. And then from there until all the way up, I would play these few songs that I knew how to play every time I saw a guitar. So it would be like 3 or 4 songs that I would just play on repeat and never really getting better as a player. One day I was reading this book about purposeful practice, And I found the subject very interesting. So I was like, all right, I'm going to try to get back into guitar, but instead of playing the same 2 songs over and over, I'm going to try to practice and actually get better. So I'm sitting there and I'm using my laptop to try to learn different chord progressions. So I was learning like the 1, 4, 5, 1. And I was like, all right, I know this chord. Yep. And then I like look back at my laptop and then try to go do the other chord. And I was wearing the smartwatch and I kind of just had this moment where I was like, okay, I could just put the chords right on my smartwatch and I would be able to kind of like learn them as I was playing. And that's really how it all started.
You said something there about working with a teacher.
Correct.
Yeah. Is it possible to... So is your teacher able to feed you lessons through this?
So that's what the goal is. Right now, like you said, we're on Indiegogo. We are doing crowdfunding just because we're bootstrapping this company ourselves. So the version right now, the current feature we're working on is actually a utility for teachers and artists to be able to upload their own songs and lessons and exercises right to the app so that their students can practice what they should be practicing, and also the teacher can kind of get a sense of what they're actually doing in between their classes.
How would that work, Joe? How would a teacher know what someone was working? Can they listen in?
No, they can't listen in directly, but it will basically grade your performance. It will assess your performance throughout different times.
Wait a minute, that's interesting. How does a watch assess your performance? What are the parameters?
So really what our goal is to try to associate the specific sound with the specific note, which obviously is harder with phones because you can have, an A note played down here versus an A note played on a different fret. But with the watch, what it really allows us to do is gauge the hand position on the actual guitar, so it weeds out the rest of the notes and gives us more precision.
So you're saying that the watch actually is able to adjust and know whereabout in terms of distance it is along the guitar neck?
So basically we use various sensors within the watch to actually pick up where your hand is on the fretboard so that the screen can scroll accordingly.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty smart, actually. I picked up on that.
It helps, definitely.
So just for the listeners, just so they know, basically, as the person moves up and down, the actual watch, the display changes, doesn't it?
Correct. Yep. Use some accelerometers and gyroscopes to,
That's incredible. Why didn't you just go with in terms of... Now, you couldn't have just gone in terms of pitch or timbre. That would have been difficult, right? Yeah,
that's what a lot of the other apps do right now. And they have a pretty good algorithm as far as, seeing what you're playing, but it's not perfect. It's not as great as it could be, obviously.
And you talked about gyroscopes, Joe.
Yes.
Did you have to... Are you plugging in to what is already there in a proprietary phone? Watch. Or are you writing everything? You guys writing everything up from first principles?
So we are writing the code, but we're just, we're accessing the device's various sensors and then achieving, whatever our output is based off of basically testing, seeing, okay, what's the data when you have your hand here? What's the data when you have your hand here? And so we don't actually have to create the gyroscope, which is helpful. It would take a lot longer.
Yeah. And what about such things like, I noticed there was some scalar information on the video when I was watching it. How do you go about actually creating a library of content? How does that actually get delivered? So what we are working on right now, we're working with just a few different instructors at the universities and places near us, as well as some remotely. And kind of what our goal is to personalize the journey, I guess, of every musician
and what they need to learn at that time to really keep them most engaged. So how we're doing this is we're taking different pieces of instruction from all different types of artists and all different types of instructors. And basically you will have throughout your learning plan, there'll just be a little very short lessons that really are associated with whatever that instructor's, I guess, like niche is or their music type is. So we are going to be launching an educator platform in 2021, so probably the first quarter of 2021, that will allow artists to basically take the YouTube videos they have or any recorded instruction that they already have, put it into Wristruments, and then go on and easily add the supplemented information right to their existing instruction. So if you're, for example, teaching me how to play a G chord from my laptop screen, then at the same time in the video, the G chord is going to be shown to the student right on their wrist. So it just adds like a little extra layer to that current learning experience.
So Joe, is Wristruments anything that we really need, or is it a response to a generation of people who are interfacing with technology in a specific way?
I think that's a really good question. I think for people who already have all of this information committed to memory, which, it's really impossible to have every song with lyrics committed to memory. So for those people, I've had some of the best musicians I've known that can put it on and pick up any song, take a request, and now they don't have to learn the song. They don't have to look at it on their iPad. I think, yeah, definitely, Wristruments it takes your playing to the next level as far as just allowing you to be able to play such a variety of things without really learning it first. Once you learn the fundamentals, you can now play all these different scales. And for me, that's what kept me engaged, and that's what kept me motivated to keep learning. So I think that if we can get people to become more excited about learning and become more excited about playing different things, then yeah, it's absolutely necessary.
I've got a couple of things that I find could be, just on first glance, negatives. So this
of course
your chance to address those. The first thing that struck me is that in general, the world is going towards larger monitor sizes. And yet with Wristruments, it looks quite a small monitor to me. Now, I've got glasses. On a more serious level, will people not find it quite difficult to see the information on such a small area? How big is it? About 1.5 inches by...
Yeah, very small. I mean, big enough to fit right on the inside of your wrist here. And I think it brings up a very interesting point. Up until Wristruments, smartwatches were seen as, similar devices to our phones or our computers, but with just smaller screens. So, and you'd have to stop what you're doing, hold it up in front of you and look at the information. And there really wasn't much benefit to this as compared to your phone because it's such a small screen, like you were saying, and the information isn't there. But Wristruments is what we're trying to do is try to usher people actually away from screens and back to the real world. So the lessons and the information, the content is designed completely differently than probably anything you've seen before. It's kind of like an X-ray of your hand, so it shows your hand exactly what you're supposed to be doing. And it's designed in a way that, once we wouldn't have phones or even have to use a smartwatch. So if we had, the heads-up display glasses, we're kind of emulating that on the watch to bring people back to this more hands-on type of actually learning while doing. So I think that traditional information on the smartwatch screen would definitely be too small for somebody, but the way that we're doing it, it's just a chunk of your fretboard that you're shown. So like if you can see your fretboard, you can probably see the display as well.
The next is my biggest worry about this, and I want to get this out of the way before we get onto all the good stuff, because I want to talk about Indiegogo and all of that. And that is, from a purely practical musician, from a player's point of view, from a teacher's point of view, I worry about this, the angle of this on the actual wrist. In terms of, you have people who have all sorts of problems on the wrist with playing, and watching the video of people playing, the hand angle looked rather odd to me, and that is a concern. Has anybody else brought this up, Joe, as a potential problem?
I think the hand angle that you were seeing in the video was probably staged by one of our directors, just to get, because if you're playing it naturally, it's really hard to actually see the smartwatch. So the wrist position, not as much I've heard of a problem. I've heard people suggesting that maybe looking at the smartwatch for too long could cause some neck tension and become a problem with the neck. So we've actually started to incorporate some features and some protection for this, I guess, where basically we'll shut off and be like, okay, now that you've practiced this, now play it without looking at the screen. And just reminders to make sure that people don't become dependent on it and that they realize, this is a tool to help you actually learn.
I must say, Joe, it sounds amazing. How much... Talk me through the Indiegogo campaign, because a lot of people have got behind this, and I'm assuming that with these campaigns, are these a way of sort of like putting a toe in the water and finding out if there's a genuine desire for this to happen before you go splurging a whole bunch of cash on something that nobody actually wants?
Yes and no. I think for us, it was more of like, we raised this money so we could actually make the app. I taught myself how to code and how to do all this thing. My business partner taught himself a bunch of stuff, and we've kind of just been doing it. Just because we know, like, when we've used it and the people that we've showed, the response that we get from them, like, it's really, like, pretty unreal. So that we knew the interest was there to an extent just because there is value in it. But now what we're trying to do is we're offering a lifetime subscription so that we can take this just from the consumer version to that educator platform I was telling you about, and also for artists as well, so that they can put their own sets on there and they can, kind of practice with their bandmates virtually, and they can see who in the band messes up, kick them out.
So how many people actually have got behind this?
I think we have like about close to 300 people who've got the subscriptions, and we have that's about that same number that's using. We have like a beta demo version right now. So we're taking their feedback as they use it, updating it, and kind of testing it in that way.
How much does a subscription cost, Joe, and what does that get you?
So right now, you can get a lifetime subscription, which will just give you all the features for life, and we're doing those for $39.99. And then once the app is out, it's going to be a monthly subscription. We're not 100% sure on the price. It's probably going to be about $10 a month. So you're saving a lot of money by helping out at this early stage, which I don't think a lot of people really,
I've got a daft question here, but for $39, which is about £31 sterling, do you get a watch for that?
No, unfortunately not.
So how much would one of these watches cost, and how would you get your program onto it, your app onto it?
Yeah, so between 200 and up to 400 for a smartwatch, I would say. So that's for Apple Watch, any of the Android watches, or any of the Samsung. So then once you have that, they actually have their own app stores, which Wristruments will be released on November 23rd, actually, is our official launch date.
Well, we'll definitely be getting this out before that to help get some noise. But Wristruments isn't just for the guitar, is it?
No, It is not.
I love the one with the piano. I'm thinking, how does that work? You're playing with the piano and you've got a wristwatch on looking at it. How does that work then?
So the piano, definitely right off the bat, it's not as obvious as a guitar. It's not as, wow as a guitar. But what it does, it just supplements. You say once you have your chording hand going, and if you want to do some improv, it basically just shows you a reference of all the notes that you can play. So one of the things that my partner Connor has actually been using it for, he's a producer. He makes beats and they'll have like an A minor backing track playing or beat starting. And he's not really a great pianist, but he has a keyboard. So he'll just go to A minor and then he'll be able to like make a little melody right there for his beat, which is really cool.
All right. So is this to help people compose, the piano one?
Right now, that's like the feature that we have. That's the one that we've seen has worked the best. We definitely haven't gone in as far on piano as we have with guitar as consulting teachers and trying to formulate lesson plans and stuff. But right off the bat, it does help for composition, absolutely.
Now, it's not just the piano and the guitar, bass, ukulele?
Yep, ukulele as well.
I can see why you're going there. I mean, the sales, they can't make them fast enough, Ukuleles.
Right.
So, are you then, how do you go about getting all the material for that, Joe? Are you having to get in touch with different teachers or players for all these instruments? Yes, and I think that as terrible as everything going on with the quarantines and the pandemic, it definitely has opened up a ton of music teachers and artists who may not have been as open with their time to actually help and contribute to this. So we've been connecting with a lot of instructors virtually and online to really just help make sure that like musicians and educators really have a way, I guess, to stay relevant during whatever this is going on. Yeah, well, I don't know how if there'll be any musicians alive by the end of all of this, because all have starved to death. But anyway, that's for
it's taking a hit, right?
Another show.
It's terrible.
One thing I noticed on the video was America had all these faces on it, right? And then the rest of the world, there was no faces apart from one, which was over in the Far East. Who's that? Who's that person?
So that's Dong Huen. He is an amazing. He was actually a software engineer and professor as well. He's from Ho Chi Minh City, Vietnam, and we connected, as well through the pandemic. It really brought together. We also have an animator, Santiago, who's from Argentina, who did all the 3D animations for the app. Definitely wouldn't have been able to connect with either of them if they were working their full-time jobs, because they are both top class in their fields.
What did he contribute?
He helped me code the app.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, that's interesting because I was talking to a guy, basically he created an app for teachers to help them, an Apple app, and he taught himself to code, to do that. And here you are, and you're following a similar route.
Right.
It makes me wonder, is it all one way? Is it all things coming to you, or is there any... I don't know how you would do this, but is there any way of recording what you're playing and sending it back the other way? Yes. No, that's interesting.
So sending it back as far as to the phone?
Yeah, well, let's just say I'm a teacher, right? And I've got one of these things, and I'm sitting at Mission Control watching everyone practice all over the place.
Yeah.
Is there any way that I can that it can judge whether the person's holding the guitar right, what sort of tempo they're playing things at?
Yes. So the audio, absolutely. It saves everything for the player profile onto your profile, and then your teacher can have back-end access to basically see what you've practiced, how you've done. As far as actually seeing what you're doing,
I wasn't thinking about seeing because it's on the wrong side of the guitar neck, right?
Right. So that would be kind of hard, but definitely as far as like remote assessment and teaching, we do have, and you can also record your own performances to see how you've improved as a player too.
But you're talking about gyroscopes, Joe, and all that sort of thing. Even although it can't obviously see what's going on because it's on the wrong side of the neck.
Right.
Will data be pulled in which could be averaged or meaned to see, you know, if someone's a professional player, they will play. I'll give you an example, right? I used to be in this group of 4 guitar players. And
right.
We used to, there was 2 main writers and I was one of them. And I'd hand out scores, parts, and the guys would go away and we'd come back 2 weeks later. And honestly, 95% of all the fingerings, we all played the same. It was unbelievable.
Right.
And this wasn't just like once or twice. This is over many years. It was always the same. So that most pros were going a certain way to play a certain thing.
Right.
That's going to happen with your watches, isn't it?
Absolutely. And that is data that we will be able to track for sure. Just like where your hand is on the watch, on the fretboard. You know, the way we did that was just set an orientation point, and then we just had, you know, a ton of different people move their hand to get that accuracy. So I think, there's definitely, as far as the position of the wrist, something that we could do there to help see how people are holding the guitar.
How are you going to monetize this more, Joe?
Wristruments, really, it's kind of the tip of the iceberg for this technology that we invented. So I mentioned Wristruments. It's the first smartwatch app for the inside of your wrist, but it's also the first smartwatch app that uses a rotated screen, like ever.
Wow.
Yeah, so I filed a patent on that after I invented it, and we're creating other apps under an umbrella company called VivoLearn. So like life and learning kind of mixed together. Where we're creating an application for golf, an application for handwriting, for drawing, pretty much any hands-on technology or hands-on activity that somebody could do, we are going to be enhancing with smartwatches until the glasses, you know, get released in a couple of years.
The glasses?
Yes.
You didn't mention anything about glasses, Chief. What's that all about?
Yeah, So, you know, the concept of Wristruments, right? It's like the whole thing, it's making learning faster and making it so you don't have to watch a screen and then apply it to what you're doing, or look at a phone and then apply it to what you're doing. So it's very similar to what augmented reality on these smart glasses that are going to be coming out in the next few years will be able to offer people. This type of hands-on, more synchronous, I guess, use of technology. Through all of these applications, what we're really doing is we are testing the benefits of these and creating brands in all these different markets to eventually combine technology better with our lives.
In a sense, is Wristruments almost like a feeler to see?
To an extent, more of just to prove that the technology works, because it does. It's a very clear case. It was the first one that I thought of. It's something that I'm very passionate about. And I think if I were to go into something that wasn't a part of my life, to try to start this huge undertaking, it just wouldn't really flow well. So while Wristruments is kind of ushering in the rest of these companies, it's definitely a main focus within itself.
You know how I think that's your strap line, isn't it?
Yeah.
Hands-on, you said. I mean,
yes.
Technology's never been this hands-on. It'll be something like that, right?
Right. Never.
How do you actually manage to get the capital? This sounds like a massive empire.
Yes. Yeah, something like that.
So you haven't to get big, the money men in behind you to. Mm-hmm. So you've got to convince people of the benefits of this.
Yeah, and I think that's what I was trying to do for so long by myself as an entrepreneur. Once I thought of this and I used it, and I was like, wow, this is pretty amazing. I just started putting together business plans and going to different pitch meetings, and nobody really understood. I was like, I think a little ahead of where we were.
You know what you're saying there. Sorry, but just when you were talking there about augmented reality, years ago I put together a website called Band for the Day. It was a massive counting machine with a competition on a daily basis for bands.
Oh, wow.
And the guy that put that together, his name was Lee, he came from Glasgow, and he eventually ended up, once he'd left Edinburgh Uni, and I drove him almost insane with Band for the Day, he created an apps company. But I do remember the last time we talked, he was going on about augmented reality and glasses and seeing things that aren't actually there and just using things as placeholders. Is that
right.
Is that kind of what you're talking about?
Yes, absolutely. It's very crazy. It's very, very disruptive technology that I think is going to surprise a lot of people with how quickly it's, adopted. And there's companies working on tons of augmented reality stuff right now.
By the time I'm ready to check out, Joe, everyone's going to be, it's going to be like that film Coma. Everyone's actually just going to be slung up in a hammock. And so
I hope not.
evil mastermind's going to be using their brains to do something. Because everyone's going to be in nirvana.
I think, that's definitely the future that we're trying to avoid. With augmented, the big difference, like virtual reality, is you put it on and then you disappear. Now you're in your own zone, which kind of is like, if you think about the problems with technology use right now and like the dissociation between the real worlds, that's kind of like the peak of how bad it could go, I guess, with everyone with these glasses on and just sitting in their chair kind of. But augmented reality, I think, has the potential to take us outside in the actual world and outside of our screens, because you're still seeing what you see. So in the example for Wristruments, you would still be seeing your guitar, but the strings would just light up different colors, or the frets different colors, I
always remember one of my guitar teachers telling me about a famous guitarist who used to take drugs, and the guitar used to light up like that back, back in the day, So there,
maybe you see in the future.
So
that's crazy.
I don't know what to think, Joe. I mean, obviously, I wish you all the best.
Thank you.
I really want it to work.
I appreciate it.
My big worry is that people actually get so enamored with the technology they don't even want to play an instrument. I think that's going to be the real challenge for in the next 20, 30. I mean, I was driving along the road the other day, and some guy, I don't know what age he was. He sounded like he was about 24, 25. Maybe he was older. But he actually said, they were chatting about some nonsense, and he said on air, the guitar. Well, I mean, nobody wants to do that anymore. That's not cool. And I thought, well, what do you mean it's not cool?
Right.
Playing the guitar is one of the coolest things you could do. But
absolutely.
But maybe that's what young people think.
No, from my judgment, because I spend a lot of time listening to music, obviously looking at music trends, I think guitar and instruments are making a comeback on the mainstream scene right now, as far as like the teen to young 20s groups. And I think that, I don't think there's really a chance that that traditional instruments can just completely fade away, because it's part of the music, like, I don't know. It can only be manufactured so much, and then you're getting people who aren't musicians to spread this whatever they want to talk about, when maybe they shouldn't be doing that.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think the thing is that humans forget that we're basically hollow, and we like to feel our atoms vibrating in our bodies. But so you, just to kind of wrap things up, you said that in November it all happens. So can you
November 23rd?
Yeah, take us through the countdown and what happens immediately after that, and maybe just a brief and then.
Great. Right now we are on Indiegogo, and we are selling the lifetime subscriptions, pre-selling to Wristruments. Those are going to stop on November 23rd, which is the date that we will officially release Wristruments on the Apple Watch Store, Google Wear Store, and Samsung Play Store, so all the major smartwatch app stores. After that, we are going to continue developing the more in-depth educator and artist platforms that will use a back end, with the computer, and we'll be adding lessons, adding songs, and really trying to just make this as big as it can be.
And will other people be able to upload songs, and how will you get that content, Joe?
So we'll have a utility on the first version where from your phone, you'll be able to put in a track, and then you'll be able to actually just how you would make a chord chart online or write tabs online, you'll be able to do the same thing right on your app.
Have you ever thought of licensing some of this, depending on how it goes, to something like Band in the Box?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Not yet. Like we said, we wanted to make sure that it was proven and that we had enough leverage before your 28-year-old kid just walks into one of these larger companies and all the horror stories in the U.S. with that. But I think at this point it works, and we want to make sure that everybody can use it, and so if that opportunity comes along, we are definitely open to it.
I'm telling you, man, you should check out Band in the Box. I mean, something like...
Band in the Box, yeah.
Band in the Box is like a sort of Frankenstein monster of a program. PG music. It's been going forever. It looks, just my take, it looks pretty horrendous. However, it's been going for about 30 years. It's 25 years. It's amazing. And they just keep, as I say, it's the Frankenstein monster. They just keep adding stuff to it.
Wow,
and
right.
Everybody in the world uses Band in the Box. They've got it down to where they can automatically generate a solo in just about any style for specific players. You got to check that out. I think they would absolutely love this.
Yeah, I just wrote that down. Band in the Box. That's interesting.
B-O-X, yeah.
Oh, Band in the Box. Okay.
Yeah.
I was going to say.
Just
away from the that makes sense.
Listen, thank you so much, Joe, for taking the time out to talk to GMI.
Yes, thank you.
What is going on? I don't know everything's up in the air just now with our coronavirus and everything.
Yeah.
Anything that can put a smile on people, and this put a smile on my face. So that's interesting.
Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate it a lot. That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to, help people unlock the gifts inside of themselves, because I think once you realize that you can play guitar, or you can, it's not that hard, you realize you can really do anything. That's what we're out here to do. Thank you, Jed.
So that wraps up another interview, and I really hope that Wristruments is going to be a success. What do you think? Is actually using something on your wrist better than actually being in front of a teacher, or just a good supplementary aid? Certainly at this point, I think it will be a fantastic supplementary aid. If you like what you hear about Wristruments, then go over to Indiegogo and support that campaign. It will be coming to fruition very shortly in November, and get a lifetime subscription to Wristruments for guitar. I hope you've enjoyed this latest episode. So all that remains for me, as always, to say is thanks for listening. I'm Jed Brocky from GMI, the Guitar Music Institute. I hope I have the pleasure of your company on our next podcast. Bye for now.